This is You've Already Been Hacked, recorded on
3 April 2026.
Welcome back to You've Already Been Hacked. This week, we are both here, so 2 for 2. We're going to do it. We're going to get there, folks. We're going to get back on schedule, I promise. It was a long week. I had way too much sushi last night, celebrating one of the small digital clones revolutions around the sun. So, Cowboy, how about you? How was your week?
Oh, happy birthday to your digital offspring.
Thank you.
Had a very busy work week as well, but I would like to take a moment and just give a shout out to a dear friend of mine in my circle that we lost late last weekend. A fellow cyber warrior, knew him for about a dozen years. So for those listening who know him, Coolio, you're gonna be missed, man. He's good people, COO of a friend of mine's company, but just good guy. Lots of conferences together, some active duty time together. Just 48 years young, man.
Wow. That's really unfortunate. That just, cyber or not, it really just teaches you that every day matters, right? And you got to make every day matter because we don't know when lights out really is lights out.
That's right. So we got to continue to do our best to impart cyber knowledge to keep everybody safe.
Well, that's a nice positive turn on that. But yes, really a 48's so young. That's really unfortunate and really really sorry to hear that. I didn't know him. Wasn't in my circle, but obviously if Cowboy knew him, then good people. So super unfortunate. Condolences to friends and family on that. Just terrible to hear. It's really not cool. Okay, let's get into the news then, shall we? Let's try and pivot off of that. All right, so our top story this week, Google researchers reveal every way hackers can trap and hijack AI agents. The security researchers at Google's DeepMind have published a comprehensive paper that maps out 6 distinct attack categories against autonomous AI agents, revealing a disturbing new frontier in cybersecurity. The research demonstrates how hackers can exploit AI agents through methods ranging from invisible HTML commands that operate without any user detection to coordinate multi-agent flash crashes that could disrupt entire automated systems. What makes this particularly alarming is that these aren't theoretical vulnerabilities. The paper provides concrete examples on how AI agents, which are increasingly being deployed for everything from customer service automation to infrastructure management, frightening in and of itself, can be manipulated to act against their own intended purpose. The 6 attack vectors identified include command injection through web interfaces, prompt injection attacks that override agent instructions, multi-agent coordination failures that lead to cascading errors, data poisoning that corrupts agent decision-making, resource exhaustion attacks that cripple agent performance, and privilege escalation that allows attackers to hijack agent capabilities entirely. This matters because this research fundamentally changes how we should be thinking about AI security. For years, the cybersecurity community has focused on protecting AI models from adversarial attacks and ensuring training data integrity. But this paper from DeepMind reveals that the real threat isn't to the models themselves. It's not something we should say don't protect, but that may not be where our biggest problem is. The problem is going to be the agents that use those models to make decisions and execute workflows in the real world. These 6 attack categories identified represent a new threat vector where attackers just don't steal data or disrupt services. They take complete control of our automated systems that organizations are increasingly relying on for critical operations. This matters because as more businesses deploy AI agents for tasks ranging from customer support to financial transactions to infrastructure management, like I said earlier, the potential impact of agent hijacking extends far beyond traditional data breaches. We're talking about the possibility of attackers redirecting automated workflows, manipulating decision making processes, causing financial losses through unauthorized actions, or even creating safety risks when AI agents control physical systems. The research suggests that current security frameworks are completely inadequate for protecting against these types of attacks, and organizations need to fundamentally rethink their approach to AI agent security. So, if you have an AI agent in your stack right now, or multiple, or you're using multiple in different stacks, what can or should you be doing? Well, you should audit all AI agent deployments immediately. Map every location where an autonomous agent has system making decisions or executing actions in your organization, including customer service bots, your automated trading systems, frightening, infrastructure management tools, and any other AI powered automation. You should also be implementing comprehensive agent governance policies, deploying specialized agent monitoring tools, conducting penetration tests for those 6 attack vectors. So if you don't know them in detail, go read the paper, and update incident response playbooks that add AI agent compromise scenarios to your IR procedures. Cowboy?
Man, this is kind of scary building on what we've talked about the last couple weeks about
Yeah.
these things, right? They say the strangest subtype of these is the persona hyperstition, where the AI's personality spreads online, gets ingested back into the model through its own web research, and then starts shaping how it actually behaves. And there's a link to the Grok's Mecha Hitler incident where some AI models out there basically got like crazy anti-Semite and just went completely off the rails. Their other examples include, jailbreaking WhatsApp's AI,
Hmm.
tricking it to generate explicit nude material, drug recipes,
Wow.
and the most scary, instructions to build bombs. So you
Well,
want to
they've
talk
been
about safety guardrails that can get manipulated? Like,
right, right.
yikes.
Yeah, I mean, we're people. I remember it was just last year I made a short executive level class on uh model vulnerabilities, right? How LMs could be used at the time, how uh, uh, prompt injection poisoning and stuff like that was really going to be the problem. But in just the past 12 months, we've seen that we've moved away from models as the primary and models much more to the back end, and now you have agents using models as a knowledge point with whatever they're injecting current information with, whether it be a RAG pipeline or something else. And the agent itself is now where the compromise point is most likely going to be, because it's the one that's going to interact with your other systems. And you're right. Like I go back to one of our stories was about pacemakers, I think, right? And how
Mhm.
those could be compromised, if I'm remembering right. Imagine that you have an autonomous agent monitoring and doing updates to those systems, and something like this happens. That's frightening of itself. You brought up bombs, like national defense organizations are putting AI into their weapon systems. That could be a problem. Like, there's a lot of danger here, and we are collectively running with scissors, I think, and the scissors are open right now. So
Mhm.
please, nobody trip if you have some very critical stuff that you're adding your AI agents to. Yeah, it's kind of
Yeah,
scary. It's really scary.
a little bit. To pile on one more
Please.
thing, as two great Americans with a rich Italian heritage, there's also a technique out there dubbed copy pasta, which is how they're embedding malware within license and README files to manipulate AI agents, to injecting the code without even ever realizing it. So to pile on the ever growing ladder of issues out there, I did appreciate that particular dubbing of copy pasta.
Oh man. I wonder if XKCD has any interesting comics yet on all of this. They're usually pretty timely, so Gonna have to go and check that out. All right, our next story.
Mm.
Mercor, a $10 billion AI startup that works with companies, including OpenAI and Anthropic, confirms a major data breach.
Oh, here we
Mercor,
go.
the rapidly growing AI startup valued at approximately 10 billion that collaborates with industry giants like OpenAI and Anthropic, has confirmed it suffered a significant data breach through a sophisticated supply chain attack. The incident originated when attackers compromised Light LLM, something that I have used in the lab but have not in recent months. A widely used open source library that helps developers integrate various large language models into their applications. According to the company's disclosure, the breach allowed threat actors to access Mercor's internal systems and potentially exfiltrate sensitive data, including proprietary algorithms, customer information, training data sets, and internal communications. The notorious ex I can't say this word right now, folks. Extortion, thank you. Extortion I lost my place even thinking about it. Wow. Extortion gang, Lapis, I don't know, do you say the dollar sign on the end of that one? Lapsus dollar? I don't know. Lapsus. I'm just going to go Lapsus. Has claimed responsibility for the attack and stated that they successfully stole approximately 4 terabytes of data from Mercor systems. This represents one of the most significant breaches in AI industry to date, affecting not just Mercor, but potentially all organizations that use Light LLM or have integration relationships with the company. The breach highlights the growing vulnerability of the AI supply chain as rapid innovation outpaces security practices, something we have been harping on from day zero. This matters because it demonstrates the escalating danger of supply chain attacks in the AI industry. When Light LLM, a tool used by thousands of AI developers, I would say tens of thousands, it's actually an interesting tool. I can talk about it here just in a moment. And organizations worldwide was compromised. The attack created a ripple effect that potentially impacted far more than Mercor itself. Every organization using that library, every customer trusting Mercor with their data, and every partner integrated with their system could be affected by this single breach. The Lapis Gang claim of 4 terabytes of stolen data suggests that this could include highly sensitive information, to include proprietary AI models and algorithms that represent years of development. It could include customer data sets containing personal and business information, training data that could reveal competitive advantages, and internal communications that might expose security weaknesses or strategic plans. This matters because supply chain attacks bypass traditional perimeter defenses. An organization can have a perfect firewall configuration, advanced threat detection, and rigorous access controls, but if a trusted third party library or service is compromised, all those defenses become irrelevant. So, what can or should you be doing right now? Conduct a comprehensive audit of all your AI dependencies. Create an inventory of every third party library, API, or service that you use in your AI stack, and pay special attention to open source components that might have unknown vulnerabilities. Implement a software bill of materials for tracking so you can track your deployed systems. Verify supply chain integrity for all downloads. Use cryptographic signature verification, checksums, all the standard stuff. Apply principles of least privilege to your AI development tools. Review and restrict the permissions granted to your AI development environments, ensuring they only have access to the minimum data and systems necessary for their function, which I know many people are not doing with their claws, but that's another story altogether. And deploy enhanced monitoring for data exfiltration patterns. Implement logging and alerting specifically tuned to detect unusual data movement from AI development environments, including large downloads, unexpected API calls, or transfers to unfamiliar destinations. Now, Light LLM, as I said in the stories, just so everybody can have just a little bit of background, if you don't know what it is, it can either be used as something that can bridge the gap and allow you to connect multiple models to multiple different sources and not multiple different endpoints, so that stuff can happen automatically in your code base, or it can act as a proxy where you can have however many models you have for redundant rollover and failure, for cost switchovers, all that sort of stuff, so that it's transparent to your end users. So, very useful tool. But what happened was, and I saw this happen, and I was happy that I currently did not have Light LLM implemented inside the digital sock here. Um, it was I believe it was a Python library that had malicious code injected into it. So Light LLM used that particular library that had malicious code in it. So they were compromised because of their stack just to make their software work. So it was like a third party to the third party for Mercor, which was really it just shows you that supply chain, very much a lucrative place for the bad guys to be. Cowboy,
Yeah, so for the record, it is just pronounced lapsus.
thank you.
There,
Appreciate that.
as always, they have multiple names, right? Also known as Strawberry Tempest, and believed to be part of a group we've talked about many times, Shiny Hunters.
Mm.
For those that don't know, lapsus, I'll say likely the remains of lapsus scattered spider in Shiny Hunters has likely been forged into a collective, more of a working together collective cybercrime groups. So, because some of their members of all three of those have been arrested, but there's still more out there. And by the way, Lapsus, they're known for going after big tech companies like Microsoft, Nvidia, and Samsung, as well as large government agencies. So uh, they're really good at what they do, and clearly they don't hold back. And uh, their capabilities, right, are very, very high. So uh, all the more important reason to increase the proactive defensive cyber operations aspect, and for those larger companies that can clearly afford it and can clearly need it, you're behind the eight ball, and keep getting after it because right, just got to be right once on the offensive side.
Yeah, just yep. As we well, that's been nothing different in cyber for as long as I've been doing it. Definitely
Yeah.
longer, right? Defenders have to be right 100% of the time. Attackers have to be right just once. So yeah, and as these stacks get even more complex and more automated, right? It can be much harder for us to detect when a library inside of a piece of software that's proxying for us is compromised. Very lucky that this was found as fast as it was. And I can even tell you some of the sites that promote or have promoted Light LM in the past as a solution have removed it from active curation and put notes up for their users as well. So being taken very seriously in this instance, and I wish that was true across the board for a lot of them, but uh, just a little soapbox on that.
Yeah, and as we talk about this group, you and I talk about CTFs and building the future workforce. In 2022, 7 people between the ages of 16 and 21 linked to this group were arrested, in England, as an example. So, for those that have it in their head that these cyber groups are like, 40 to 50-year-olds who've been in the industry for 30 years. No, no, no. These
No.
are brilliant kids who grew up in the digital age, right? Who arguably see the matrix, are causing the most damage, partially because they are just incredibly skilled, partially because they don't have the maturity to understand that there's real world consequences for your actions. Um, and partially because cyber has taken on that persona of what used to be, breaking things because you could, but never doing real damage to no, I want to see how much damage I can actually do or how much money I can actually make, which has been a significant shift over the last 20 years. So just a little bit of gee whiz about Lapsus and our friends, Shiny Hunters.
And I appreciate for the pronunciation assistance as always, Cowboy. Thank you. All right, our next story, the democratization of business email compromise fraud, or BEC fraud. Security experts are reporting a troubling evolution of BCE attacks, describing how these sophisticated social engineering schemes have become increasingly accessible to attackers with varying levels of technical skill. According to the insights shared by security researchers The threat landscape has fundamentally shifted as BCE operations have transitioned from requiring advanced technical expertise to becoming commoditized services that can be purchased and deployed by virtually anyone. The democratization phenomenon means that attackers no longer need to develop their own sophisticated phishing infrastructure or craft highly targeted social engineering campaigns. Instead, they can purchase BCE as a service that includes pre written email templates, infrastructure hosting, and even customer support for fellow criminals. This has resulted in a dramatic increase in the volume and variety of BCE attacks targeting organizations of all sizes. From small businesses to Fortune 500 companies, the traditional barriers to entry that once limited these attacks to well funded criminal organizations have collapsed, creating a situation where BCE has become one of the most accessible yet financially damaging cyber threats facing businesses today. This matters because this represents a fundamental shift in the cybersecurity threat landscape that should concern every organization. What was once the domain of sophisticated criminal groups with extensive resources and technical expertise has now become a commodity available to virtually anyone willing to pay for it. This means that small businesses, which previously may have been considered too insignificant to target with elaborate social engineering campaigns, are now just as vulnerable as large corporations because the tools and infrastructure needed to launch a BCE attack are readily available for purchase. The commodification of these attacks has also led to an explosion in volume when the barrier to entry drops from need advanced technical skills to just buy a kit. The number of attackers increase exponentially. Traditional email security filters struggle against this evolution because modern BEC attacks don't rely on obvious red flags like suspicious links or malicious attachments. They use psychological manipulation, impersonation of trusted contacts, and carefully crafted narratives that bypass both the technical defenses and human skepticism. The financial impact is staggering, with BCE constantly ranking among the top causes of cyber related financial losses globally. What makes this particularly dangerous is the attacks are becoming more sophisticated even as they become more accessible, with attackers learning from each other and their success and continuously adapting their techniques to evade detection. So, what can or should you be doing about this right now? Well, deploy comprehensive email authentication protocols, implement DMARC, DKIM, and SPF records across all your domains to make email spoofing significantly more difficult and ensure that legitimate emails can be verified while fraudulent ones can be blocked. Invest in an AI powered email security solution. Uh, that may help stem the tide, but again, if you're investing in something that's LLM backed, hallucinations are always a possibility. Establish mandatory verification procedures for sensitive requests. Revamp security awareness training to focus on the psychological triggers. I think that's a really good point. And disable automatic email forwarding rules organization wide. Cowboy?
Yeah, I mean, once again, AI is significantly shrinking the cyber kill chain and creating, again, from what used to be a handful of nation state or highly skilled people down to your average script kiddie. A big thing of note that has come out of this as part of this is Cisco Talos identified a newer large scale automated credential harvesting campaign, automated, right? Exploiting the React 2 shell, remote code execution vulnerability in Next.js applications. Um, it's attributed to a group, but not, they don't know who it actually is. They just gave it a number, UAT 10608. But they're targeting specifically AWS, Kubernetes, and AI platform credentials, right? So they're stealing SSH keys, shell histories. Lost my spot like you did earlier. Anyway, um, a, a lot of the reason they're doing this is because they're collecting those credentials, because that's how they get in to the email servers in order to impersonate those emails better without setting off all those red flags because it's coming from an internal trusted source.
Yeah. Um,
But by the way, that's active as of April 2026, which is 4 days old. So It
Have
is an
fun.
it
Yeah.
is active. So if you're a SOC or cybersecurity person listening to this, um, doesn't matter if you're a small or big business, you might want to go out and research that and take again some proactive steps.
Yeah, your point on the kill chain and just just harping on democratization of this, right? I mean, uh, that's the double-edged side of this knife with AI. Uh, call it vibe coding if you want, if that really is your thing. I mean, I'm going to move away from the term of vibe coding. Yes, it's accurate-ish for some people, but I think if you're in software development, and I know people are gonna be upset by saying it, and I apologize. I'm not trying to cause, strife. I think the role of a software engineer and a software developer is rapidly changing from you write the code to you program manage essentially the AI to write the majority of the code, and you'll have to go and tweak it depending on what the code base is, et cetera, right? And I think that's really where it's going to go. But because it's going there, you can know a whole heck of a lot less and get the job done that much faster, and criminals are realizing this, and they're now able to deploy tools at speed. BCE being, a SaaS product at this point for criminal enterprise, which is incredible. Hackers for hire. It's just it's going to be interesting here in the next couple of years, for sure, for sure. In our next story, critical Cisco IMC off bypass gives attackers admin access. Cisco has issued an urgent security patch addressing multiple critical and high severity vulnerabilities in its integrated management controller product line, including a particularly dangerous authentication bypass flaw that allows attackers to gain full administrative access without valid credentials. The vulnerability affects the management interface used by administrators to control and monitor Cisco servers, networking equipment, and other infrastructure components. According to Cisco's security advisory, the authentication bypass vulnerability enables threat actors to completely circumvent the login process and obtain administrative level privileges on affected devices. This means that attackers who can reach the IMC management interface, whether through direct network access, compromised internal systems, or exposed cloud configurations, can take complete control of the hardware without needing any valid username or password. Cisco has classified this as a critical severity issue and strongly recommends that all customers apply the available patches immediately. The company advisory also notes that exploitation of this vulnerability could lead to unauthorized configuration changes, data theft, system compromise, and potentially complete loss of control over affected infrastructure components. This matters because this bypass represents one of the most dangerous types of infrastructure vulnerabilities because it attacks the management plane, which is the control layer that governs entire systems rather than just individual applications or services. When attackers gain administrative access through this vulnerability, they don't just compromise a single device. They gain control over the entire infrastructure stack that the IMC manages. This could include servers running critical applications, network equipment controlling traffic flow, storage systems housing sensitive data, and even security appliances designed to prevent attacks. The fact that the vulnerability requires no authentication means that traditional access controls become completely irrelevant if an attacker can reach the management interface that they're already in with full privileges. What makes this particularly concerning is that the management interfaces are often overlooked in security audits and hardening efforts. Organizations frequently assume these interfaces are internal only or hard to reach, but cloud misconfigurations, remote management requirements, and network segmentation failures frequently leave them accessible from unexpected locations. What can or should you be doing about this if you have Cisco in your network stack? Well, apply the security patch immediately across all of your devices. Once again, this is one of those Don't wait for management to say so. You have to do it, and it's going to probably take production down since it's part of your network infrastructure. Segment management network interfaces from general traffic. Implement dedicated VLANs or out of band management networks that isolate the IMC and other management interfaces from regular users and application traffic. Conduct a comprehensive audit of management interface access controls. Deploy monitoring alerting for management interface activity, and run vulnerability scans specifically targeting unpatched management interfaces. Use security scanning tools to identify any IMC device other than management interfaces that haven't received critical patches, and prioritize remediation based on exposure level and criticality. Cowboy,
Professor, I have some good news for this article.
please. Good
This
news is
is
good news.
not, yeah, this is not a 10.
It's
It
not
is not a 10. It is a 9.8
a
on the severity scale. So take an extra 5 minutes before you patch. It's okay. It is
yeah,
not a
you
10.
can
It's
pause.
only a 9.8.
Only a
Um,
9.8.
so again, an integrated management controller, right, which is the IMC, it's a hardware module embedded in motherboards of Cisco servers. And it actually provides out of band management, which means if your OS is powered off or crashes, it can still actually be accessed, whether through UCS C series or E series, XML API, web UIs, or even command line. So even if it's powered off, it's actually still accessible, which is why I'm surprised it's not a 10, to be honest. Like the tricking the IMC into um, getting full admin access, and the thing you can do by changing passwords of everybody else on that system, or just I mean, you own it, you're admin, right? Like you're god of that server. And so again, surprised it's not a 10. 9.8 though. uh, so you professor said it right. I would argue this is not a scheduled into your next right go around.
No,
This is
get this
like
done.
get get after it immediately. And if you have the ability to have threat hunters go out and start looking for any indicators of compromise, indicators of attack, any of those things, certainly worth doing, because there's enough information out there to fairly quickly go and look and make sure um, someone has not taken advantage of this 9.8 severity exploit.
Only a 9.8.
Only a 9.8.
That's
I
almost
told you,
below what
sir.
we normally talk about. I mean,
Right.
seriously.
Yeah. What we don't
Sad
even talk
laugh.
about below 9.5, right? Like it's not
It's
even.
just, I mean, is there really? I mean, there are probably, the sad thing is, we wrap with everybody here for like 30 minutes or so every week. Um, and we try to cover what we think is really hard hitting, but the truth is, even if it's not a 9, it's still terrible, right? This is still something, it should be still something you're taking really seriously, and I hope that your IT departments are. Um, but it seems like the speed at which these type of vulnerabilities are coming out is so fast. I don't know that IT staff have the ability to keep up with it anyway, right? I mean, think about that. Like, if we're talking about at least one or two a week that are like, oh my God, deal with it now. The honest answer from a business perspective is, can you really afford that much downtime? I mean, can you not also is the flip side of that question. What are your thoughts, Cowboy?
Yeah, I mean there's a lot of variables there. It depends on what it's affecting. Do you have to take half your network down, your whole network down, or is it something you can pop out with minimal impact?
Mhm.
However, yeah, I agree. Like smalls and even medium businesses, absolutely not. Even larges uh, th- have trouble with this. The federal government, let's,
Ugh.
they can't keep up, and that's not a ding on them. Okay, we know a lot of great
Oh, yeah.
people,
No,
a lot of
no.
great right who are. It's the fact that the government can't afford downtime as much as even most big businesses because of national security, right? So
Right.
it's not a hit on them. It's just that you can't push out a patch that might break the network, because that's all kinds of bad in a lot of different ways, especially in today's environment. So
100%.
yeah, not a hit on them at all. It's just not possible to keep up, and so um, uh, it's a real problem, and when you and I fix it, we're going to be able to retire,
Yeah.
because
Well,
everyone's going to buy it.
by the time we fix it, there'll be another problem. So there you
Yeah.
go. All right. In our last story, maintaining cyber control when AI can act autonomously. As organizations increasingly deploy artificial intelligence systems with autonomous capabilities, a critical governance question is emerging that goes beyond traditional security concerns. What boundaries should we set for AI agents that can make decisions and execute actions without human oversight? According to analysis from TechRadar, the fundamental challenge isn't whether AI technology can act autonomously. It clearly can and already does in many contexts, but rather establishing appropriate limits on what those autonomous systems are authorized to do. The article explores how organizations are struggling to define and enforce these boundaries as AI agents become more capable and integrated into business workflows. Questions include whether the AI should be able to initiate financial transactions, modify system configurations, access sensitive data, or communicate with external systems without human review. The discussion highlights a growing gap between the technical capabilities of modern AI systems and the governance frameworks needed to ensure that those capabilities are used safely and responsibly. As AI agents gain more autonomy in areas ranging from customer service to infrastructure management to financial operations, the potential consequences of uncontrolled or poorly governed autonomous actions become increasingly significant. I would add in also, what happens if your agents aren't following the governance rules that have been applied to them? Rules are only as good as if the people and the systems that are designed to use them are following them. So just something to think about in that second breath. This matters because in the rise with autonomous AI agents, it presents a fundamental governance challenge that organizations are ill prepared to address. For decades, cybersecurity has operated on the assumption that human operators make critical decisions and execute important actions, with security controls designed to protect those human decision makers and verify their actions. But when AI agents can act autonomously, making decisions, executing workflows, accessing systems, and even modifying configurations without any human intervention, that entire framework becomes inadequate. The problem isn't just about preventing malicious attacks on AI systems, it's about ensuring that legitimate AI operations don't cause harm through unintended consequences, policy violations, or escalating automated actions. Organizations are deploying autonomous AI systems at an accelerating pace, often driven by efficiency gains and competitive pressures. But the governance frameworks needed to safely manage these systems is woefully lagging far behind. When an AI agent can independently execute transactions, modify critical infrastructure, and access sensitive databases, or communicate with external systems, the risk profile changes dramatically. A single misconfiguration, a compromised AI system, or even a well intended but poorly constrained autonomous action can result in financial losses, data breaches, operational disruption, or safety incidents. What can or should you be doing right now if this is a concern to you? Well, define and document clear autonomy boundaries for all AI systems. Create comprehensive policies that explicitly specify what actions AI agents can take independently versus what requires human approval. Implement multi layered approval workflows for critical actions. Establish comprehensive audit logging for all AI decisions and actions. Create emergency kill switches and rapid response procedures, and update organizational governance policies to explicitly address autonomous AI. Cowboy?
I think we need to do one show every day, an hour long for the next month to just
Oh my God.
reach the top of this topic, right? Like, holy cow. So here's some fun predictions. So analysts predict 40% of enterprise applications are going to include AI agents by the end of this year. However, nearly half of those agents are going to run without oversight.
Wow.
That I mean we've harped on this dozens of times at least, right? Um, it it can be done and should be done, but that feels like too much. I've told, you say automation to the government and everyone loses their mind. But there are obvious, safe things that you can implement that wouldn't have catastrophic effects to your company or uh, people or consumers, right?
Yep.
So, you know, those, the Cowboys good with, like, that makes sense. When you start doing things that, if there's a poisoning, a breach, take your pick, that could cause catastrophic effects to your business, your consumers, you need to wait. You need to take a step back and do some hardcore testing, wrap it in some hardcore security, and you've got to be, we always say accept the risk, right? Like the CEO needs to have the full understanding to accept that risk and be ready to reap what you sow should the worst happen, which we always hope doesn't, but kind of always waiting for it. So make good decisions, folks. We're not against it. Just make it make sense and safe.
Yeah, make it make sense and safe. And then you have to audit the systems to make sure they're following the governance that you've put in place, right? Even
Yes.
today, and Cowboy already knows this, even today, one of the agents that I have that assists me with a couple of things blew through its procedures. Well documented in its memory, in its bootstrap. It's a multiple check, like, do not do this without human intervention, and it did it anyway. It's the first time it's done that, but I don't know if it was a context problem. I haven't tracked down exactly why it blew through its procedures and its safeguards, but it did. Luckily for the task that it did that with, it's a very minor, legitimately minor infraction, right? It's not going to cause irreparable damage to myself, to my family, to uh my work life. Nothing bad ultimately will happen, but the mere fact that it didn't follow procedures is troubling. And that's at a small, non-critical scale. And
And
businesses are.
simple procedures,
Yeah.
not complex, right?
No, no, not complex.
No.
These are not,
Yeah.
but even that should be a warning sign. That's a personal warning sign just here, but it should be a warning sign to anybody. You need to not only make sure that the procedures are sound and followed, you need to check that they're being followed and can't assume that the agent, especially again, using large language models and generative AI on the back end, are going to 100% of the time follow the rules they've been given. They are generative AI. They are using complex neural networks. We could go into, you want to talk about a podcast a day for just that? We could do that
Mm.
forever and never cover enough material on it. These systems are black boxes and they're doing what they were constructed to do in a manner in which most of humanity can never fully understand, even the experts at this point. That's not saying don't use them. That's saying human in loop is 100% essential, even for automated tasks, which I know business leaders don't want to hear because that may not save them all the resources that they think that they were going to save. But that's where these systems are today, and I think that's where these systems are going to be for the near to medium term. Honestly, um, there's just too much variability in some of the output, and maybe the answer is we don't use generative AI for everything that we're using it for. Maybe static machine learning type systems, step action systems are better for certain workflows. Those are more rigid and brittle, but maybe more effective. And you'll have to determine that for your own environment. Cowboy, what else you got for us tonight?
Yeah, just to close that topic, I think these are made up numbers just for the conversation. But if you're able to save 4 FTEs by using AI, maybe 2 of those FTEs need to become uh, cybersecurity professionals who are watching and testing the the AI that you're using. So
Maybe, yeah.
just food for thought.
Yeah.
But to end the night on my punchlines, AI agents don't need to be hacked directly. We just need to nudge them in the wrong direction because we've already mapped 6 ways to break them, but that's really probably just the beta version.
Oh god.
I'm Cyber Cowboy. Stay frosty.
That's not even a punchline. I think that's just the beginning of the first nightmare, Cowboy. Well done. And I'm the professor of CyberRisk. That's all the news for this week, and we'll talk again soon.
If you like this podcast, share it with your colleagues and friends. Your support is how we are able to continue to make this content. Thank you.